Welcome to Sleepy Classic Tales. In tonight's episode, you are listening to a calm, continuous retelling of The Loyal Subject by Heinrich Mann, published in 1918. It is a story about obedience, power, and how easily people replace thinking with serving. Dietrich Hessling grows up in a lower middle-class family. From an early age, he learns two simple rules. One must bow down when someone is stronger and strike when someone is weaker. He fears punishment, admires authority, and despises anything that resembles doubt. His father, a strict and domineering man, shapes him deeply. He despises softness, loves discipline, and teaches Dietrich that fear is an effective means of maintaining order. At school, Dietrich is an unremarkable student, diligent, compliant, but lacking courage. He says what teachers want to hear and despises those who contradict them. Even then, the idea takes root in him that power is something reassuring, as long as one stands on the right side of it. As a young man, he leaves his hometown to study in Berlin. It is the era of the Wilhelmina Empire, a country of parades, flags, and exaggerated loyalty. For Dietrich, it feels like paradise. Here, obedience is a virtue. Here, one can be proud of being a subject. At the university, he encounters free thinkers, artists, and doubters. They speak of freedom, criticism, and responsibility. Dietrich listens, smiles awkwardly, and feels offended. Such thoughts unsettle him. He does not want to think. He wants to belong. Slowly, he gives himself over completely to the spirit of the time. He wears uniforms, speaks of honor, fatherland, and order. He feels strong when marching alongside like-minded people. For the first time, he experiences something he calls pride, even though it is, in truth, nothing but the fear of being excluded. In this attitude lies everything that will follow later. For Dietrich has learned that one remains on top by stepping on those below, and that one is safe when one says yes loudly enough. Dietrich Hessling continues his studies in Berlin, though, in truth, he learns nothing new. Everything he encounters, he instinctively categorizes. Who is stronger? Who is weaker? Who has power, and who never will? He admires officers, civil servants, and professors with rank. Their certainty soothes him. Their hardness impresses him. Near them, he feels protected. At the same time, he despises those who refuse to conform, students who laugh, doubt, and discuss, people who understand irony. To Dietrich, they are dangerous, not because they are strong, but because they show that life could be lived differently. One fellow student in particular repels him, a man who openly criticizes the emperor, who speaks of freedom, responsibility, and independent thought. Dietrich listens, nods politely, and feels attacked inside. Such words threaten not the state, but his own worldview. For if doubt were permitted, he himself would have to doubt, and that is out of the question. When his studies end, Dietrich returns to his hometown. His father has died, and with that he inherits not only the family paper factory, but a role that finally gives him security. He is now an industrialist, a respectable citizen, someone whose voice carries weight. For the first time, he is not merely under authority, he is authority. He becomes politically active, gives speeches, attends meetings, and voices opinions loudly and decisively, always on the side of power, always where approval is to be expected. He tolerates no criticism, and if he does, it is only to humiliate it publicly. In the town, there are people who think differently. Liberals, social democrats, intellectuals. Dietrich watches them closely. He remembers names, statements, faces, not out of curiosity, but out of caution. He knows that those who criticize today might become dangerous tomorrow. The more influence he gains, the safer he feels, and the more merciless he becomes toward those who do not fit his image. He calls it order. He calls it patriotism. In truth, he is protecting only one thing: his fear of losing control. And that fear will continue to drive him. With the paper factory, Dietrich Hessling's self-confidence grows, not because he has become braver, but because he now possesses something that gives him backing: money, influence, reputation, things behind which one can hide comfortably. He quickly realizes how easy power feels when others depend on it. In the factory, he tolerates no opposition. Workers who ask questions strike him as ungrateful. Demands for better conditions feel like an attack. He speaks of order, duty, and national responsibility, and means obedience above all. Those who do not comply are replaced. Those who resist are intimidated. And Dietrich begins to take pleasure in it. Socially, he also rises. He attends gatherings of notables, sits on committees, makes himself visible. He feels particularly at ease near military officers and high-ranking officials. Their uniforms, titles, and rigid language give him support. Beside them, he feels important, and above all, untouchable. At the same time, his mistrust grows. He hears rumors about political opponents, about people who question the state. Liberal speakers, social democrats, critical journalists. Dietrich remembers every word, not to debate, but to use it later against them. He begins filing reports, passing on information, publicly exposing others, always in the name of the law, always with the feeling of doing what is right. One family in town in particular becomes a thorn in his side. They hold different views, speak openly, think independently. Dietrich feels provoked by them simply through their existence. He uses every opportunity to discredit them, to question their loyalty, to damage their reputation. He calls it patriotism. In truth, it is revenge against everything he himself will never be. The more he attacks, the safer he feels. His fear turns into hardness, his insecurity into arrogance. And while he publicly speaks of order, he privately begins to savor his power. He decides who belongs and who does not, who is respected and who may fall. Dietrich Hessling has arrived, not as a free human being, but as the perfect subject, who has learned how to obey upward and kick downward. With each further step upward, Dietrich Hessling changes. What was once insecurity becomes arrogance. He speaks louder, judges faster, and feels less and less obliged to explain himself. He has learned that those who possess power do not need to justify themselves. They only need to speak in the right tone. In town, his influence continues to grow. He becomes chairman of associations, sits on commissions, is invited to receptions. Everywhere, he presents himself as the model citizen. He waves flags, gives speeches, quotes the emperor. His words are smooth, his posture upright, his loyalty unwavering, at least outwardly. Behind this facade, however, something else grows. Dietrich begins to enjoy controlling people. He watches closely who conforms and who does not, who cheers when it is expected, who remains silent when approval is desired, and who dares to object. He acts particularly harshly against those who voice public criticism. He registers meetings, has speeches reviewed, ensures that people encounter difficulties. Never openly, never directly, always through rules, paragraphs, and jurisdictions. He loves being right, even when no one says it aloud. In private conversations, he becomes more cynical. He speaks of necessary severity and healthy order. He explains that a state can only be strong if weakness is consistently fought. By this, he does not mean violence, but submission. He firmly believes that people must be led, and that he belongs among those entitled to lead. At the same time, his fear of falling grows. The higher he climbs, the more he fears loss. He controls his surroundings, his language, his appearance. He tolerates no uncertainty anymore, neither in others nor in himself. When a monument in honor of the emperor is planned in the town, Dietrich sees his great opportunity. This monument is meant to embody everything he believes in: power, order, inviolability. He takes over the organization with fanatical zeal. He sweeps aside resistance, ridicules critics, or neutralizes them. The monument becomes more than a symbol to him. It becomes proof that he belongs, that he stands on the right side, and that he is willing to do anything to defend this position. The imperial monument becomes the center of the town, and Dietrich Hessling's personal project. He throws himself into the organization with almost feverish zeal. Meetings, committees, speeches, votes, everywhere he sits in front, everywhere he leads the discussion. Not because he has the best ideas, but because he most loudly claims to act in the interest of the fatherland. Resistance does exist. Some citizens consider the monument exaggerated, others unnecessarily expensive. Still others reject the cult of personality altogether. But Dietrich now knows all the levers. He puts pressure on opponents, plays them against one another, reminds them of dependencies. Those who publicly object face difficulties. Those who remain silent are rewarded. One liberal opponent in particular becomes dangerous to him. A man who speaks openly, has arguments, and refuses to be intimidated. Dietrich feels provoked and exposed by him. Instead of confronting him openly, he resorts to familiar methods. He collects incriminating information, twists statements, spreads rumors. Soon, the man is considered unreliable, distant from the state, problematic. Dietrich observes this process with satisfaction. He has learned that power lies not in open blows, but in slow corrosion. And the more successful he becomes, the more convinced he grows of being in the right. At the same time, his relationship with those around him changes. Friends become followers. Acquaintances become tools. He hardly listens anymore. He waits to speak himself. Every agreement feeds his sense of importance. Every criticism feels like an attack. As the day of the monument's unveiling approaches, his nervousness grows. This event is meant to be his triumph. It is meant to show that he is indispensable, that he creates order where others doubt, that he is not only a subject, but a shaper, even though he never stops obeying upward. On the day of the celebration, Dietrich stands at the center. Flags wave, speeches are held, military music plays. He feels carried by the crowd, confirmed by applause. And yet, at that very moment, something unexpected happens. A critical interjection, a brief hesitation, a crack in the perfect staging. Dietrich reacts immediately. He drowns out doubt with volume, pathos, and aggressive loyalty. The crowd follows him. The interjection fades away. Order is restored. But deep inside him, something remains, a knowledge he refuses to admit. That his power lasts only as long as no one finds the courage to truly object. After the unveiling of the monument, something in the town changes. Not openly, not immediately, but perceptibly. The celebration has shown how much power Dietrich Hessling now holds. Many recognize it. Some admire him for it. Others begin to fear him. Dietrich himself savors this moment. He moves with greater confidence, speaks more decisively, judges more quickly. Where doubt once existed, certainty now reigns. He knows how to steer people. He knows how to force approval without stating it openly. And he knows that laws and morality can be bent if one only invokes them loudly enough. Yet with power grows his dependence on it. He begins to see dangers everywhere, in casual remarks, ironic glances, silence that is not explicit enough. He controls his environment even more closely, intervenes earlier, tolerates less and less. Some old companions turn away from him inwardly. They sense that the ambitious citizen has become a fanatical defender of order. Conversations grow shorter, more cautious. But no one openly questions him. His influence is too great. The price, too high. Dietrich notices this distance and interprets it as confirmation. To him, it is not a warning sign, but proof of superiority. Those who withdraw are weak. Those who remain silent have already lost. He sees himself as a bulwark against chaos, as guardian of the correct attitude. At the same time, the state he so admires begins to show cracks. Political tensions increase, unrest, strikes, criticism from outside. Instead of reflecting, Dietrich clings even more tightly to the symbols of power: flags, titles, commands. He responds to uncertainty not with doubt, but with blind obedience. In rare private moments, a brief unease overcomes him. A question he immediately suppresses. What remains of him if the order he clings to begins to falter? He does not allow this thought. He has learned that thinking is dangerous. In the end, Dietrich Hessling stands firm in his position, successful, respected, feared, and completely incapable of being anything other than what he has taught himself to be. He is no tyrant, no hero, no victim. He is what emerges when people stop taking responsibility and prefer to hand it upward. In the end, Dietrich Hessling's rise leaves behind no great triumph, no dramatic fall, no moment of recognition. And it is precisely in this that the true tragedy lies. He continues to live as a respected citizen, as someone who loves order, respects laws, and believes himself always on the right side. His power endures as long as the structures support him, and as long as they support him, he does not question them. He has learned that security matters more than truth, and that thinking is permitted only when it confirms what already prevails. The town continues to change. Political tensions grow, fronts harden, but Dietrich remains true to himself. He adapts to every new authority, adopts every new slogan, as long as it comes from above. He does not defend values. He defends power. Any power that presents itself strongly enough. What makes him dangerous is not malice, but his conviction of being right, his refusal to seek responsibility within himself. He believes in order because it gives him support. He believes in obedience because it relieves him of fear. And he believes in authority because it frees him from doubt. No one forces him to do what he does. He chooses it himself, again and again. And therein lies the true message of this story, that being a subject is not necessarily coercion, but an attitude. Dietrich Hessling is not an individual case. He is a type, one who functions as long as he is told what is right, one who feels strong when he submits, one who is willing to kick downward in order to belong above. And so his story does not end with a bang, but with a quiet, unsettling continuation. And with that, today's story comes to an end. Perhaps you are now wondering, how closely does our calm, short version remain to Heinrich Mann's original novel? What does Dietrich Hessling reveal about obedience, responsibility, and the danger of blind loyalty? And why does this figure still feel so disturbingly familiar in the modern world? We explore these and other questions in our accompanying book, Golden Pages, Volume 3. There, we place the loyal subject in its literary and historical context and show why this story continues to function as a powerful warning to this day. You will find the link in the description. And if you like, we will listen to each other again tomorrow on Sleepy Classic Tales. Good night.